Hello, everybody. Welcome to this special episode of Media Snack. We're inviting the Professor Mark Ritson, back on Media Snack after a few years' absence. And it's great to connect with him again on Media Snack to talk about the progress or not that we've all made in media around the world. And we talk about some of the things that, in his view, are still giving marketers headaches when it comes to media. We also look at some of the things that are winning in media and some of the good progress actually that we've made. For those of you that don't know Mark, he is a well-seasoned and well-traveled marketing professor. He's taught at some of the world's best business schools, taught marketing to MBA classes around the world. And you also may know him as the founder and presenter of the Mini MBA in Marketing, which is a great series of courses I highly recommend. I hope you enjoy the episode. So we're doing a bit of a kind of state of media, and I appreciate your leaning into this because I know you love being down in the gutter with me talking about the messes in media and advertising. Dirty stuff. Since you and I probably last talked on Media Snack, have we become too obsessed with cost and efficiency in media? And how do we get back to talking about effectiveness in media?
That's a good one. I think we're still as obsessed as we ever were with efficiency. I think we can thank our tech friends and the general climate of, procurement, etc., for the emphasis on doing things at the lowest possible cost. And of course, our old friend ROI, who tends to point, ironically, most brands in the direction of making less money as well, is another factor here. So, I think we not that much has changed. I do sense a little bit of sort of gleaming hope coming through. I think how the brands, since we last spoke, handled the recession, I think for the first time in marketing history, I think brands got the memo that you don't pull back on media investment for the most part. You try and maintain it, and you actually get a boost from that. I think that message got through. Similar to the message on pricing, I think brands did manage to work out how to put up prices in inflation. So I think what's happened with the decline of business schools everywhere in America, their influence, and the rise of, for want of a better word, the LinkedIn school of thinking in marketing actually has been a very positive force. I think marketers, that knowledge is far more democratized than it was during our last great recession. And I think what we saw there was a focus more on effectiveness than efficiency, which gives me some hope that things will continue to get a bit better, and we will be smarter in the future.
Look, good. We've wrapped up this episode very quickly. Then we've done it. We sound very positive. Come on, we got to get a bit doom and gloom first. What is effectiveness in media, though? What does that really mean? You and I have been talking about, our friends at System One and some of the great work that they've done. They've been start to build a really good correlation between creativity and effectiveness.
Look, there's a couple of things there, right? So, first of all, you've got to set. A lot of people are conflating marketing effectiveness and communications effectiveness and media effectiveness as all the same thing. It's definitely not, right? We've got to put media and comms in its place. It's less than 10% of the overall marketing game. Now, it doesn't mean it's not important, but marketing effectiveness in general has a whole host of other shit to do with strategy and pricing and product, blah, blah, blah. If we purely look at ad effectiveness, I think we live in a pretty good era of knowledge on this, right? I think we've learned quite a lot in the last 10 years. We go back 15 years since How Brands Grow and Long and Short, that I think has really changed how we think about effectiveness. I would add things like realizing wear out is not an issue, the 60-40, reticence about going straight for ROI, the idea that mass marketing isn't a bad thing, the presence of distinctive brand assets, the role of excess share of voice. I think there's a literature now which is richer and more practical than we've ever had. But I have to point out to you, given your New York residence, that for the first time also in media history, the Americans are well behind the pace on it and are not as advanced as certainly Oz and Europe. And that's not because I don't think Americans are smart. I think they invented marketing and they're historically the best marketers on the planet. They just haven't stayed up to date. And I went to a couple of conferences in the States over the summer and fall to talk about this with data showing, using Effie submissions, that American advertising and media is behind the count. And of course, what happened was, A, they didn't really appreciate it, but B, no one had a clue what the fuck I was talking about. Like, I'm like, I showed how most American FE submissions never mention excess share of voice, and far more UK submissions do. But the American audience were like, what's excess share of voice? And when is Christy Turlington going to come out and talk to me about personal branding? Do you know what I mean? It was pretty sad.
Yeah. Let's cast our minds back. With the last Media Snack that we did, we made a lot of reference to some great speeches that Mark Pritchard, the P&G, was doing around media. Like he really kind of rolled his sleeves up and he decided he was going to tackle, the media transparency issue. At the time, I think we were maybe being quite hopeful that maybe media kind of reached its lowest point and the only way was up. Things seem to have got a little bit more complicated since then. And some of the things that you talked about was that the mistrust of agencies is a smell that's just going to hang around for a long, long time, and it's going to take them an age to kind of rebuild that back. I think you told me that programmatic was toxic and that would kind of disappear. What's been your observation? Because that's going back a few years. It doesn't seem like we've really made a lot of progress, and these feel like quite contemporary things. Are you still talking about these things?
I think you'll find the use. I think you're right. Programmatic is, you can't live without it. Let's be honest, right? I mean, there isn't a way of doing media in the 21st century without a programmatic buying model. I think the term has been neatly kind of moved into the shadows. Do you know what I mean? Like if you look at how it's spread out now, just don't mention it and call it something else has changed. I think also what we should add to our relatively miserable prognosis back then is the classic full service agency is now also in something of a existential crisis as well, right? And are sort of worried about their place in the future, rightfully so. So no, I don't think things have got any better. I think what we're seeing is, I think Pritchard quite correctly went out and sorted it for P&G. I think they've had a phenomenal 7 or 8 years. We talked a minute ago about American marketers being behind, with the exception of certain brands, for example, P&G, who got straight into how brands grow 10 years ago, got straight into the long and short of it. I did a thing for P&G's European team a month ago, and they've been all over this for a long time. So yeah, I think what Pritchard was doing, which we kind of got excited about, was not fixing the discipline for the discipline. He was fixing the P&G approach for a competitive advantage, which is exactly what he should have done, right? So, and the interesting thing is he's still there, right? If you'd have told me back then, it was 7, 8 years ago, we were talking, that Pritchard would still be chief brand officer of P&G, is the long, long tenure now, Tom, right? And it's no bad thing either, given he's probably one of the more influential and smarter members of the marketing cognoscenti.
Yeah, and still doing it. He was at conferences this year. He was at the A&A Masters, the A&A Media this year. Same message. I mean, he came out with a great headline this year, which was that media puts the market in marketing, which was his kind of like, which is quite nice.
Right up your, media guys would like that, right? I would say the consumer does that, but there you go. Yeah. He was very good. I like him very much on mass marketing. So one of the great unspoken challenges of marketing at the moment is, okay, we get sophisticated mass marketing. You've got to put numbers on it and an actual definition on it. And most marketers struggle with that because it's quite imprecise. And he was very good on both Tide and I think it was Pampers, where he talked about how defining the total market, which in the case of Tide was everyone, but in the case of Pampers wasn't, was a very difficult first step. And then you can start to think about segments and activation. He's the only guy that really addressed that point. And I thought I used that quite a lot with a lot of different companies since.
And I mean, apart from P&G, because it's very easy to come back, isn't it? Come back to them all the time as kind of, setting standards and being almost like the default of great marketing, solid marketing principles. Who else out there? Let's maybe not, we always keep bowing down to Mark. Like who else out there do you think is not distracted by all the noise, is not chasing the shiny things, is really focusing on a good marketing principle, but secondly, like in media as well? I mean, have you got any observation about who does
I
it
think
right?
McDonald's globally have been ahead of the curve for many, many years. I think they're one of the few brands that I do a lot of work with YouTube, and if you look at how McDonald's uses YouTube, they get the challenge with YouTube for me is it's long and it's short, but you can't get it from the same execution. So you can use YouTube as a sort of TV sidekick, and you can also use it as performance video, and it works beautifully for both within the same campaign. If you look at how McDonald's have grasped that, it works beautifully, right? They get that. So I think McDonald's are ahead with media. In the UK, I'm very taken with both Tesco and Marks and Spencer, who M&S is back after all these years, run by a very smart CMO. They've got back to, they're almost to their old media approach, right? It doesn't look a lot different from 10, 12 years ago. And my point would be, that's great. We should see more of that. They went back this year to, remember the food pornography stuff of kind of 15 years ago. For non-British listeners, there's this, M&S is all about, we're slightly better quality, we're good value, but we're just, and the great strap was always...
It's an M&S orange.
It's an M&S orange. This isn't Christmas food. It's M&S Christmas food. And meanwhile, there'd be a Christmas pudding getting covered in loads of sexy custard, And they've just gone back, having, someone classically, 7, 8 years ago, killed the campaign because it was stupid. Got a CMO, knows what she's doing, was come in, gone, just put it back. And this is a key message, right? We talked about this the last couple of months over and over again. Using old ads, using existing media strategy, and not needing to feel like, what are we going to do different next year? The smart marketers go, nothing. We'll just run the whole thing again, because the consumer, not us, isn't bored with any of this yet, and it hasn't fully played out yet. So for me, I think M&S and Tesco, look at Tesco's outdoor strategy. It's just beautifully done. BBH doing creative, PhD doing the media, and just a beautifully done.
Yeah. So in some of the stuff that we've been talking about, it sounds like back to basics on creative that works. Don't throw out shit that they're trying to reinvent. If you've got stuff that works. And then from a media perspective, there's an allergy. What's going on? From a media perspective, there's like this allergy against using the word television or radio or outdoor, It's just not talked about. They're dirty words in media, which is kind of daft, really, because we've become so obsessed with a new thing. But is there? I'm always hopeful that there's still an embers burning there, where I'm hopeful that marketers are going to come back to media that's effective.
No, not with TV, Tom. I mean, no. TV is the most spectacular disparity between perception and reality I've ever seen in my career. So, okay, TV is not what it was at the turn of the century, particularly with respect to reach, and therefore also with respect to value. But with that aside, the way that it's now perceived by sub 40-year-old marketers versus its actual potency, contribution. If you look at any independent research, not from the TV people, but anyone else, it's the great integrator of all the other tools. It's the great emotional brand builder. And yet you talk to a 35-year-old Chicago-based marketer and suggest TV advertising, and they look at you like you've proposed some illegal sex act on the subway, right? They're like, what? You must be out of your mind, So I think we'll never get back to where TV was at the turn of the century, where you could hit 30, 40, 50% of your target demographic in a night. But we also will never get back to a place where people saw TV as a key, there is no superior media form, but a key contributor to the mix. I just think that it's been outflanked. And of course, while all this is going on, and TV is a dirty word, YouTube and TikTok are invading the TV. They're just not calling it TV. So it's completely bananas, right? Completely bananas.
It's good. But the idea of these kind of, immersive experiences in communications that we're talking about, these iconic ads that you're saying are being tested, they work just as good as the new stuff. I like the idea of marketers maybe and media directors getting back to some basics and having some confidence in to go back to things that maybe work and not be trying to change everything all the time. We've kind of touched on that.
Well, that's a big advantage, Tom, right? So not only do old ads work just as well, if not better than new ads, 4 times out of 5, the research says the old ad is probably superior. As you say, it's a lot less risky. And I tell you a move I saw, Tourism Australia did it down here with a CMO called Susan Coghill. She knew all of this. She knew that, hey, we don't need a new campaign every year. So what she did was took 3 years worth of creative money and really spent the farm on shit hot creative, right? Knowing that she might run these ads for 5 or 6 years. So she's got much better creative. And as time ticks on, money that she would have had to spend on a new creative campaign is dumped back into 20 points more of media. And she was absolutely explicit about it at the start. And she's sort of 3 years into it now. And sure enough, she's got award-winning work, and she's not going for new awards. What she's going is, now I'm just going to run it again and again with way more media investment than I would have had if 25-30% of the money was going on a new shoot with a new campaign that wasn't as good as the one I've already got in the can. I think that's a model that more marketers should look at.
There was a golden age, wasn't there, of advertising, and a golden age of media partnerships between brands and media platforms and great media brands as well, and that's kind of evolved forward. When we put AI on top of this now with marketers, and what are they thinking about AI and how to implement that to improve effectiveness of their media and advertising? Is it all fluff, or are you actually seeing
coming?
some
I mean, there's
impact?
No. It's not fluff. And I deserve more credit on this topic than anyone else. As you well know, I have shit canned every single innovation correctly, from NFTs to fucking 3D printing, my whole career. I've just spent my life going, what a load of bollocks, right? What a load of bollocks. Openly in the press, right? Going, this is also bollocks. You'll see. Like when we lost our shit about NFTs, it was just like, what are you doing, you stupid people, right? So you would expect Gary Vee to go, yeah, AI is the future, right? But if someone miserable and pessimistic and cynical like me goes, no, it's the future, I think I get 20 more points for that, right? So there's two things going on. First of all, AI is every single platform has to demonstrate how they're using AI, right? And most of it's bullshit, right? But there's a couple of things going on. So all of this personalization, micro-targeting stuff that never worked and we didn't want to do anyway is very quietly now just being swept under the carpet, because what they're now saying from Facebook to LinkedIn is, look, just give us your creative and give us your budget and we'll plug it into AI and it will automatically find, pachinko style, the right target for the right return, right? I'm skeptical, because I think that's where the media will respond best. It doesn't necessarily mean the strategic target, but anyway, that's where AI is playing an immediate role right now, I think, in the media business. Targeting's disappearing, and what it's saying is, just give it to me, we'll tell you where it plays best, right? In the longer term, and I do work with a couple of big AI firms in the States, so I'm not just sitting here talking arse as many people are about AI. I think we do largely get removed from the equation, starting, unfortunately, with media. I just don't think it's, I've got, if you step back where we come from, there was a traditional system, there was a traditional system where you went to a private school if you were lucky. I certainly wasn't. Then you went to a good university, and then you got into, a PwC or a McKinsey, and you did accounting, or you did that whole thing's gone, right? Law, accounting, consulting, in my opinion, is going to quickly now get eradicated, because AI comes in and changes the whole nature of our career paths. Not for us, we're old and don't care. If you're sub 30, I don't know what you're going to do, right? And what's interesting is, first to go, I've got a mate who's an interpreter, who's a Japanese interpreter, Alex. And we had a wine tasting a couple of months ago, and he came early, which is very unlike him. And he wanted to have a chat with me. And I thought, oh God, he's having another child or something, his wife's leaving him or something. But he basically lost 70% of his work. He works out of Australia to do Japanese translation, and AI had just come in and taken all his work away. And I was kind of counseling him that it wasn't it was gonna get worse, And I thought, if I'm sat in a kitchen table in Tasmania having an AI conversation, it's starting to happen, right? Now, translators were always going to go first, right? Then accountants, right? But media is very close to the top of that pile of things that can be automated and improved at much lower cost. So for me, the media, and particularly the performance side of it, will start to crumble. Ironically, I don't believe AI is going to be any use at producing long-form brand-building ads. I mean, you can do it. Lots of brands are doing it with waggly-armed people, and it's coming on, and oh, look at my new ad. Ironically, that's the one area where I do think humans will continue to be predominant, right? In creative genius will remain creative genius, but that's a small place, right? The whole of the media buying is going to be taken over. And by the way, I'm in there too. Like, I'm one step up from the coast because I'm doing strategy and stuff, but I don't see myself as any more than 5 to 10 years from obsolescence as well. And I'm hedging with a big AI firm, and I'm training it to do my planning process using synthetic data, and the results are already mind-boggling. So I give it 10 years for my role to disappear and less for media to be gazumped by the process. I don't think ID comms is necessarily in a bad place, by the way. I think your monitoring audit role, when it's machines, probably becomes all the more important, right? So I think you're probably the last man standing. But the idea that you would, from a human point of view, have to do this, I think, is rapidly, not yet, let's be clear, but within 10 years, if you're 30 now, you've really got to think about what's going to happen within the next 10 to 15 years, how it will all change.
Yeah. We see media enabling the marketer to do more of that in-house, to manage more of the media themselves. So I think that's going to be one of the biggest impacts. Is certainly for media agencies, it's going to have a probably negative impact. Not least because, as we've talked about before, the underlying trust between the marketer and a media agency is not great. So, are you going to buy all the AI tools from a media agency? No, you probably build them yourself and run it all yourself. Creative, maybe.
Well, and there's a great point there, because you understand core competence, which is the great Prahalad Hamel paper from HBR. What it said, summarizing it too quickly, brewing beer and running a pub aren't the same thing, right? So breweries can't run pubs. In the same way, media agencies aren't going to produce the best software for buying and planning media. This is not this, so they're out of that. And what's interesting is the extinction response of media and creative agencies is, what role will the agencies play here? And it's like, you don't, it's capitalism. You don't have an automatic seat at the table. No one's worried about you. No one cares. You know what I mean? No one hates you, but nobody cares. You'll be taken out of the equation because nobody wants to pay for things that they don't need. So there's a preciousness, it comes out in the pitching bit a bit as well. When people say, we shouldn't have to pitch for business and all of that. I think there's a good debate about whether they should be paid to pitch, but all right, if you don't want to pitch, that's great, but you won't get the business. But, it's not up to, you're not in charge. It's not your game. You're not running anything. You're serving a much bigger master. Do you know what I mean? And I think in this case, when the master says, I don't need you anymore, I've got a dingus, I don't think anyone will care, frankly.
And we're increasingly auditing those internal in-house buying operations as well. So we're getting all the marketers' media buying data independent of the agency, and now applying AI to find patterns of opportunity so that they can improve the effectiveness of that spend. So that's we might be some of the last people standing maybe, but we're lying wholly on the marketer's side here to kind of analyze as they implement AI through media, we'll be doing the analysis of it for them.
And that's the right play, Tom. That's where you need to be, because that's where the money and all the power is, right? I mean, follow the money. When it was interesting, you remember when Campaign Magazine and Marketing Magazine were sister brands when we were young marketers in the UK, right? And then Campaign killed Marketing Magazine. And I said to my editor at Marketing Week, let Campaign have the whole agency news world, all that, because it's tiny, there's no money there, and nobody cares. Make this the moment that Marketing Week becomes about the client. And we don't talk about advertising that much, because we'll let that 10% go to Campaign, and we'll have the 90% with all the money. And that was a hugely important strategic move for Marketing Week. And in the same way, if you go in-house and work with the client and go upstream, there'll always be money and work there. I'm not confident that there will be work further downstream. And in audit, I think there's always human work. Go back to my mate, the translator, Alex. There's one job left where you audit the AI's translations of Japanese businessmen. And he's going for that kind of work now as the kind of the human auditor. So I think there are new roles, less but important roles still to play in our new world. But also I should point out, Tom, like you, I don't give a fuck. I'm 55. I do worry about the younger generation. I mean, I do care. I see what's going on, and I feel for them. I don't want to sound callous about it. Personally, I don't care. I have a tunnel which ends at 61. Not death, I hope, but work. And God knows what happens after that. It'll be fascinating to watch with popcorn and very large, expensive glasses of French wine. But I really feel for that 30-year-old who was me 25 years ago, who wants to work in marketing and media and is committed to it as a profession, but literally now doesn't know what it looks like 15 years from here, when they actually need it to be a big paying, lovely job, right? Yeah. I that's not fair on them. Yeah. It's really not.
But they'll invent something. And we as you are, we're raising them. We've got to guide them. Mark, listen, I'm going to let you go and have another cup of coffee. I hope you enjoyed that episode. We've just watched it back and realized that Mark and I ended in quite a negative place when we were talking about media, which is exactly where we ended up, I think, the last time we did a media snack together. But there are lots of things to look forward to in the year ahead, lots of new opportunities and possibilities, including the return of the Media Snack podcast, which will be coming to you very soon. I will be reuniting with my original co-host and co-founder, David Indo, and we'll bring you a new Media Snack monthly show. So we really look forward to you joining us then.